Okay, welcome back. This is Mr. Hassan's Maths channel. I'm now answering question number 3 from the Edexcel IGCSE Mathematics A modular course, and this is the Unit 1 higher paper from the sample assessment. So this is like the new modular exam where you take Unit 1 and Unit 2 in separate. You can take them in separate sessions if you want. You can take them in the same session, and they combine the marks for the both together. So this is probably going to be a popular option. And this is the sample assessment paper that the examining board has released to give an idea. And we're doing Unit 1 questions here. So it says here is a biased four-sided spinner. Okay, so when it says biased, it means it's not equally likely to land on, any one of those faces. So for example, if it was a unbiased four-sided spinner, then the probability of landing on 1 or a 2 or a 3 or 4, all of them would be a quarter, be equally likely. But because it's a biased spinner, the probabilities of it landing on the different numbers differs. Okay, so it says the table gives the probabilities that when the spinner is spun once, it will land on 1 or it will land on 3. So these two have been given to us. The probability that the spinner will land on 2 is equal to the probability that the spinner will land on a 4. So these two probabilities are equal. So the question, I think, says Priya is going to spin the spinner 250 times. Work out an estimate for the number of times the spinner will land on a 1 or a 2. Okay, so now we got to work out an estimate for the number of times the spinner will land on 1 or 2. So we have to first find the probability of it landing on a 2 first. We have to find the probability of landing on 2. Because we want to find the probability of landing on 1 or a 2, we have to know the probability of it landing on a 2. Now, let me call that probability x. And because the probability of landing on a 2 and the probability of it landing on a 4 are the same, then I can also call this x. So those two probabilities are the same, as they said. Okay, the probability that land on a 2 is equal to the probability that it will land on a 4. So this is x, therefore that is x. Now, what we should understand is that the total probability for all the outcomes altogether will always add up to 1. The sum of all the probabilities in the situation will always be equal to 1. So what we can do is we can just add up all those numbers and they should give you 1. So we can say that 0.26, well, what I'm going to do, I'm going to show the steps here just to make it clear. So the probability that the number is equal to a 1 plus the probability that the number is equal to a 2 plus the probability that the number is equal to a 3 plus the probability that is equal to a 4 is equal to 1. So we can say 0.26 plus x plus 0.18 plus x is equal to 1. So if we simplify that, we got 2x plus, and that's going to be 26 plus 18, that's 36 plus 8, that's 44. So 0.44. Now, this is this paper you can use a calculator for, so I'm just going to make sure. If you were taking the Cambridge IGCSE and you're watching this, one of the papers you cannot use a calculator, so you'd have to make sure you did this right in your head. Okay, 0.26 plus 0.18 gives you 0.44. Okay, good. So now we can find x. We have to subtract 0.44 from both sides. So 1 minus 0.44 is going to be 0.56. Okay, we can confirm with that calculator to make sure. 1 minus the final answer that we got, 14 over 25, which is 0.56. And then we got to divide both sides by 2. So x is equal to 0.56 divided by 2, which is equal to, that's going to be 0.28, I think. Let's just again confirm that with a calculator. So dividing by 2 and then press SD to make sure, 0.28. That's correct. So that is a probability of getting a 2 and also, a 2. And that's also the same as the probability of getting a 4, 0.28. Both of them are 0.28. So now the question says work out an estimate for the number of times the spinner will land on a 1 or a 2. So we got to consider the probability that it lands on a 1 and also the probability that it lands on a 2. So we have to add these two separate probabilities together. So 0.26 plus 0.28. 0.26 plus 0.28. That represents 1 or a 2, basically. So that's going to be that's going to be 40 plus 14, 0.54. Again, we can confirm that, 0.54. You take 0.828 plus 0.26. That gives you 0.54. So that's a probability it lands on 1 or 2. So now what we can do is we can find out an estimate for the number of times it is, likely to land on a 1 or a 2. So we take that probability. Now, this is called theoretical probability. What we calculated is the theoretical probability. And, we're not 100% sure that it's going to land on a 1 or a 2, the number of times that we're going to estimate, because, we can't say for sure what it's going to land on. It's just, these are the probabilities. It's more likely to land on this than the other and so on. But what we're going to do is we're going to take the probability that we found, 0.454, and it's like, this is how many times it would land on a 1 or 2 on one throw, you could say. If you multiply that by the number of times that it's thrown, which is 250, so you multiply this by 250, that will give us the number of times it's likely to land on a 1 or a 2. Okay, so this is the number of times. Okay, it is expected, and it's an approximation, so it's not exact. Okay, to land on 1 or 2. And that's going to be 0.54 times 250. So this answer times 250, which gives us 135 times. So 135. And there is our answer for question number 3. So it's all about probability and, basically probability distribution here. So if you would like to see other questions from this particular paper, you can find them in the playlist that will appear on the top right of the screen at the end of this video. And you'll find here questions dealing with probability from this syllabus of the new modular syllabus. If you would like to find questions which deal with probability in general, okay, you can find them over here in this playlist over here. And those will include probability questions from other examining boards as well. And you can subscribe to my channel by clicking on this link. Thank you for watching and see you soon.